Welcome to the Inappropriate Growth Podcast, where we dive deep into the stories and strategies of those who are shaping the future of business. Today, we have a special guest, Baruch Akbosh, the visionary behind IdealExitPlan.com, with over 15 years experience spanning web development, marketing, sales, and operations. Baruch has dedicated the last decade to maximizing the value of small to mid-sized businesses through strategic acquisitions. His expertise lies in the critical interplay of people, processes, and technology, making him a valuable partner for business owners looking to transition their companies ethically and profitably. Join us as we explore Baruch's journey, the origins of his business, and his insights into the future of business transactions. Join us as we get inappropriate. Welcome to the Inappropriate Growth Podcast. I'm Paul Angel, your host, and I'm very excited. Today, I've got Mr. Baruch
Akbosh.
Akbosh. Ah, man, I thought I was going to get it. That's close.
You're good.
Well, all right. Well, Baruch, so I don't have to do it, and so I don't run the risk of messing up. Why don't you tell our listeners where you are and how you got there?
Yeah, currently I'm based out of Ormond Beach, Florida, which is north of Daytona. I moved here back in 2005 from New York State. And prior to that, back in 92, I moved as a refugee with my family from former USSR, Tajikistan, one of the republics. I'm very grateful to being in this country. After experiencing what I have experienced as my journey, I could never possibly dream of those things if I would be still back in the former USSR or Tajikistan as a country right now. So I'm here to give back to our entrepreneurial community and share the pains of the journey.
Awesome. It's one of the things I love the most about talking to people who come here from other countries. I'm not well traveled. I haven't been to many places, but I'm convinced I live in the best country. And I've yet to speak to someone who came here from another country to not affirm or confirm what I think. My evidence is not from my experience, it's from the experience of people who've immigrated to this country.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it because it makes me see I was right. I didn't know why, but now I know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to jump right in. Can you share a bit about your journey from web development to becoming an acquisitions advisor? I'm curious what inspired that transition.
Sure. When I came to this country, for the first 2 years, I was in high school. It was not a public school, it was a private school. All the kids from former USSR were the students of that school. So for 2 years, all we did is spoke in the Russian language. I did not speak any English or understood any English. So I went to college to get English as my second language. I pursued computer science. That was my major. After 3 semesters within a college, I realized that the college is not really for me. I just did not have interest. Somehow, working in the Haagen-Dazs ice cream shop and having a second job in a bagel shop kind of did it for me. So I dropped out of college. And I thought I had the best job in the world. Think about ice cream shop, right? Everybody comes to eat ice cream when they're in a good mood. Nobody goes there to eat ice cream when they're not uh, uh, enthusiastic about it. So, using a body language, my broken English, I understood basic concepts and I was able to service customers until one day that store was sold to a new business owner who ended up putting cameras and micromanaging us. So the whole dream fell apart. So, yeah, so I had a choice. I dropped out of college. I made a little money. Uh, so I was thinking to go to army or pursue a computer school. Somebody told me that there's a school that 3 months, a program, they will teach you everything you need to get the job as a programmer. So I actually pursued the school. And back then, computers were so expensive. I borrowed $4,000 to buy a computer. $3,000 I borrowed to pay for the course. So $7,000 in debt. I was able to go to 3 months of training. And to my luck, from the first interview, I got a job as a web developer. So the first job I did was for the White House Historical Association. I built their museum shop. I was in seven heaven, I'm telling you. As an immigrant with broken English, I'm so grateful to a person who was training me at that time. His name is Ron. Thank you, Ron, for your patience and tolerance. Here I am today. You probably don't even know that I'm here, but that gave me such a boost, such a foundation that I ended up being a programmer for 15 years straight. And few years into it, I realized I'm a consultant. I did not want to have a full time job. So that's also interesting from my with my personality. I was an introvert, insecure, average person who went to get the computer job, web developer, not to talk to people. And how the whole life turned everything around. And when I moved down to Florida, I opened a furniture store. And that furniture store, in 2005, 2006, due to a real estate boom, we thought that everything would be still appreciating. I had no idea about the potential real estate crash. We opened a furniture store, and I basically, in 2006, ended up shutting it down. I blamed the crash, but in reality, I was a programmer. Did not know anything about commerce. I picked a lousy location, and I was compensating for that location through a lot of advertisements. So there were a lot of expenses. Basically, I didn't know what I was doing. So that store put me into debt with over 500K, $500,000. So that was a painful experience, and I had to come to realization that programming will not get me out of it. So I reinvented myself, and I discovered lead generation. Of course, I had three kids at that time. My cars were repossessed. The house was short sailed. I had to downsize tremendously. I didn't have a cell phone for 3 years. A lot of people cannot relate to the stuff even. So that was an interesting journey, but I did reinvent myself and was able to find value producing leads using pay-per-click advertisements on Google. That helped me to pay off some debt. Then I somehow was attracted to opportunities where I did not have to exchange my time for money. So everything was commission based, or I was getting offers to have an ownership in bunch of startups. So my whole life turned around towards that 2008, 2009. Back then, there were platforms like Elance, Odesk, Upwork. Eventually, everything was under the umbrella of Upwork. So we started to outsource the web development to other contractors out there, and I oversaw the whole development, right? So one startup after another, of course, it was like failure after failure. Finally, we built a platform that was purchased. We exited that one. Odessa bought us out. Second biggest auction, car auction. Cars arrived. They bought us out, and that time I did not realize what have transpired. We just exited. We were under huge pressure from our investors to return the funds, and so we had to exit. It was a nice exit, but not good enough. But I paid off all my debt, and I was able to go get involved with other startups. My time opened up in 2016. I discovered that um, my agency that produced the leads was not good enough for me. I wanted to get into business and not just produce leads. I wanted to close the leads. So I'm was curious to see what happens to leads afterwards. And I was getting an answer, none of your business. So I said, okay, none of my business. I'm going to find a way to get into your business. So I purchased the Action Coach business coaching franchise, and that gave me opportunity to get into business and see what's behind the scenes. I was always fascinated as a consultant how business works. I was very attracted to different business models, and the beauty was that the business owners always had to share how everything works behind scenes in order for us to systematize or automate things, right? So I discovered the whole new world there, and little by little transitioned into a business coach and business consultant. I was still involved with other businesses, but I was mentoring along the way. So in 2018, I decided to exit and just fully focus on consulting gigs. A few years into it, I got involved in a partnership. We grew that business where we grew team from business owner himself and a couple of people to close to 15 people. And while hiring all those people, we also tremendously raised the profits. So I had an exit there. This is when I was looking for my own business and was exposed to the world of acquisitions. So while I was looking for a business to acquire, I discovered so much pain business owners go through that gave birth to what I'm doing right now with the idealexitplan.com.
What were the key lessons that you learned in that time period that kind of shaped your approach to business acquisitions?
Sure. Good question. So my biggest, I'll share with you my biggest realizations, right? So in 2007, 8, I had already 3 kids, and I realized that programming is only bringing me money when I'm programming. So as soon as I stop programming, the money flow stops. So the first realization was that I cannot, for the rest of my life, exchange time for money. Right. So this is where I started to be more open-minded to the idea of saying no to the paycheck. I didn't want full-time jobs. I wanted to uh, get uh, rewarded based on value that I produced, based on the outcome that I produced. So that was a big eye-opening event. Then what I realized when I did with the pay-per-click advertisement, right? I realized that doing advertisement service for others, I did a lot of affiliate marketing. Affiliate networks had their own caps and limitations on how many leads you could produce, and they would also remove offers. So you would always find yourself in a place where you could not really scale. There would be another ceiling. You cannot bypass that. So I end up exiting that business as well. In business coaching, what I realized also there is it's not easy to guide others. I was always finding myself, I would say always, it's not a good word. In majority of the time, I would find myself in a place where I desired somebody else's success more than they wanted. And I believed in them more than they did. And that, of course, would not bring to optimum results because I would end up rolling up my sleeves and getting involved personally, right? So uh, that was an opening. So now I'm at the place where every single person should have a business. It's okay to mentor others and do what you desire, where you get maximum fulfillment, but everything should be structured as a business. So I found myself as a consultant. I was not exchanging time for money, but every time I would stop consulting gig or exit, I had to start all over again, which was not okay as well. So like those were like the biggest learnings that I got uh, by going through the journey. So yeah, so now say no to paycheck was probably one of the hardest and one of the biggest.
I know you like to focus specifically on small and mid-sized businesses. What motivated this, and why do you personally believe these businesses are particularly important to the economy?
93% of businesses never reach a million in revenue, not profits, revenue. So majority of businesses are considered very small, uh, and not because they failed to achieve. That's the lesson I also learned. A lot of business owners got comfortable and their lifestyle is supported, so they stayed in that range of being under a million, right? So then, while I was looking to acquire a business, what I discovered some additional stats which totally blew me away. I looked at over 50 businesses. Every business that I looked at had financials totally messed up, or basically they were not good enough for potential buyers to make a decision to buy or not. So the stats that I found is that 80% of businesses never get sold, which means if you have 100 businesses for sale, 80 of them get liquidated. They just either totally shut down or they'll just sell their assets and be done. So then I found out that over 75% of businesses that were sold, those 20 that actually sold, business owners regret in the first year selling. So if you look at the actual numbers, it seems like um, uh, less than 10 businesses get sold, and actually sold where the seller was satisfied, right? And some other stats that over 50% of businesses fail during the due diligence. So as soon as you start to go through due diligence, looking at the financials, looking at the legal, and looking at the risk level, you find out that the business is not qualified for purchase. So those numbers kind of shocked me. So I decided to start with the ideal exit plan and help business owners to overcome three stages. Stage number one is exit. What do you see yourself what do you see yourself as post exit? Some people just cannot find themselves. They didn't think about what they're gonna do. Yes, they'll play golf, they'll travel, but no, we entrepreneurs, 6 month tops, 1 year, you basically do not know what to do with yourself. And then also depends at what age it actually happened. So I actually created calculator that would uh, and I can share this, by the way, with the audience if they'll reach out uh, at info at idealexitplan.com. Just put in the subject calculator. There's a calculator that would show you a calculation of, like, let's say I want to get $10,000 monthly to support me for the rest of my life. So to get that 10,000, it will basically show you what should be the price of the business when you sell, to pay the tax, to pay the broker, to pay all other fees that a business owner has to face, in order to be left with the a foundation, the base that could be invested, that would produce them $10,000 monthly. A lot of people do not know that number. So when they sell a business, they end up regretting, because they were not in a position to understand. They were not even aware that they're going to be left with almost nothing. They're getting $3,000 or $2,000 a month, and that's not a way to sustain yourself. So, very, very critical to understand what the post exit life looks like. How much do you need to sustain yourself? What you're going to do so you're not going to regret selling. So, that is one. Number two is people want to sell a business. It's not like a house you can put out for sale if it's a season or market is friendly, right? You could exit with 90 days. It takes a little time on the market. Okay, within, let's say, even 6 months you can get out of the business, I mean the house. But with businesses it's so complex. uh, Prepare to have a business on the market for at least 6 months to a year. And be prepared that if you go as is right now, there's 50-50 chance that the deal will not follow through during the due diligence. There's a 80% chance that your business will never be sold, right? So what do you need to do in order for you to have your business attracted to buyers? So this is where the second pillar comes in. We show how to create the narrative, how to show the numbers, how to position yourself in a market before you approach a business broker to start offering your business to potential buyers. What do you need to have to package the business in such a way that multiple potential buyers will be looking at it, right? So if you have only one buyer looking at it, that's what I also call monopoly, right? You need to have always you need to have a leverage. The only time you have an alternative, the leverage, is when you have multiple potential investors or buyers looking at your business. If it's only one, and you get that one once in the moon, you're basically desperate. That's a monopoly. You're not in a good position. You don't have an alternative. So you're not in the position to negotiate a good price for your business. So let's create a proper narrative, a proper it's like a candy. How do you package it that it becomes attractive to a buyer? So while that business is going to be on the market, you have at least 6 months while somebody will be looking at it, right? Even the due diligence process takes anywhere 60 to 90 days, taking into consideration that the potential buyer will also need to figure out the funding part. So while we have 6 months to a year, that's the third pillar where we'll come in and actually start de-risking it. Right. So at the end of the day, what I found also was eye opening is somehow I had a belief that any business that is for sale, it's usually sold at 2-3 multiples, but that's not true. The higher your profits, the higher your earnings, the higher the multiples, right? So let's say if your business right now has 200,000 in earnings, you can sell it for 1 to 2 multiples. So if you take this 200,000 earnings and make it 400, if you double it by adjusting few things, all of a sudden your business could be sold for 2-3 multiples. If you go even higher, let's say it's a million, depends on the industry, depends on how de-risked it is. It could sell at 3 to 5 multiples, right? You reach 5 million, it could go up to 13 multiples. Imagine. So it's all at the end of the day. What do you have in a business? How it all structured and how it's tremendously looking at the earnings and we de-risking it, right? By the way, one of the things that I discovered that not everybody knows, I challenge the audience right now. If I would ask you a question, what's most important you think is in a business? What you're going to get from most of the people is revenue, customers, employees. Some will say maybe even a product, but none of those things are important, right? At the end of the day, revenue is not something that you keep. You have variable expenses, you have fixed expenses, right? You end up with profits. So profits are more important than the revenue, but then even profits are not important, right? Yes, business is all about optimizing the profits to scale. You got to constantly magnify your earnings. It's all about the profits. Based on profits, people put multiples on top of it. But we need to look at the business, keeping it with the end in mind. We need to look at it as how buyers or investors will be looking at it. What they looking at the enterprise value. What's the capitalization of the business? Right? So if my profit's 200K, capitalization could be 600,000. If my profit's 500K, capitalization could be a million and a half. Right? So it's all about raising the capitalization, the enterprise value. How do you increase enterprise value? You need to make sure that the business is removed of all potential risks. You got to de-risk it, right? So business owners look at it as a seller. Potential buyers, investors, they look at it as a buyer. Buyer wants to know, how much do I need to pay? What's the return on investment? And what's the likelihood that I'm going to get that return on investment, right? So capitalization, return on investment, then profits, then revenue, then your customers and products and everything. So when you focus in the wrong place, you're not making those gains that you need. When you know that it's all about enterprise value and de-risking it, you putting things in place that would uh, make you more successful during due diligence. I can give some examples if you want.
Well, but I see that and it all comes back to that packaging. Like, you understand the exit, why they're doing it, make it attractive. You want the systems and the policies and all the automation that are possible to max out the profit. And if if it doesn't look like something anyone wants to buy, it doesn't matter how great it is. And if you don't do all those things, you'll probably end up with the 80% of people who regretted actually making a sale, if you're lucky enough to be in the 20% that actually sell
Sold.
their business. So I
Yeah.
see where you saw the opportunity. It makes perfect sense to me.
I have over 50 strategies that would not only de-risk the business but elevate the value of the business. So that's like a whole third thing. So while we're waiting for potential buyer to look at it, we go through all low-hanging fruits and de-risk the business as much as possible. So when somebody will be actually looking at it, we're not going to just lose it or accept that our business will be undervalued by 20-25% because I did not de-risk it.
It's like an onion that you just keep peeling, layer after layer after layer. I'm curious though about your concept of a seamless exit strategy. What are some what what common pitfalls do business owners face when they plan their exit, and how does this strategy help?
The pitfall is they did not plan an exit. But they don't realize that sooner or later you will exit. You might exit not in a nice way. I have people that I talk to. Husband passed away. He was owner. The whole business depended on the owner, and he's no longer there. So now the business became a black box. Wife doesn't know how to run it. So now somebody has to go look at all the emails, talk to every vendor, figure out where the business is holding, right? So people do not plan. So you're going to exit in not in a nice way, or you're going to exit prepared, right? So keeping the end in mind, that's where the pitfall is. People do not think far ahead to see, like, okay, like, even like, I'll give you another example. We said peeling the onion, right? If you did not prepare your business for sale, uh, there's different type of buyers. There is buyers who is positioned as a financial buyer. You need to understand who the financial buyers are. Usually financial buyers, they buy business, they want to buy it as a platform. So they would usually want the owner to stay on and run a business for them. So somebody younger would be open to such idea. If I'm already older, baby boomer looking to exit, I don't want to stay in the business, financial buyer might not be an idea for me because they want it as a platform. I would want to look for strategic buyer. That's the next big one. Strategic buyers usually already have a platform and they're looking to roll up smaller companies to increase their density, their presence, increase their offering. So they would want to roll that business into their platform that they already have, right? So that's where you get the maximum money with those two. Then there is MBA buyers, we call them. Who's the MBA buyers? MBA buyers, it's a completely different mindset. It's a C exec working for some company decided that, you know what, I'm making a couple of 100,000 a year working for someone. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to work for me. So I'm going to look for a business that has earnings of 150 to 100K I'm willing to be the operator of the business. Looking to take learning curve and have that knowledge transferred to me. I will run the business, optimize it, and eventually let it operate on its own, right? So that's the MBA buyers. They have a different mindset, and they basically looking for that type of business where they could get a couple of 100,000 in earnings, right? But then if you didn't approach those three, you basically in some way stuck. Where you stuck, you probably want to leave it to your kids. You're not getting multiples from your kids that you would get from strategic or financial buyers, right? You probably not going to be able to leave it to them because usually kids do not want to follow the parents' footsteps. It's going to be extremely rare when a kid would want to follow what the footstep of their parents, especially if the business is not out of the box a business, it's a job. Like I did not want my parents' business. My father was a butcher. They had a supermarket. My mom was helping him. I was a web developer. Forget about it. Like me being a butcher, not happening, right? So there's a lot of businesses like the plumbing, HVAC, pest control, you name it. Kids do not want it right now. Everybody wants to be on a computer, use AI. Do not show yourself at the workplace. Have everything easy. It's a different generation, right? Or you end up selling it to your employees, uh, key employee manager. But again, they're not going to be able to get probably funding, so you're going to be open to seller financing. You will hold the note as a business owner, and you cannot possibly expect multiples to be that high. They would not care about all the systems in the business because they're not being a strategic or financial buyer, right? So that's basically on the lower end where businesses will end up, and that's also where the regrets happen, because again, uh, in most of those cases, it does not end good.
What are the challenges you see business owners encounter when they're actually thinking about their post-exit life? Like you talked a little bit about that, but this the concept, the purposeful post-exit, right? How does that purposeful post-exit planning help them navigate the personal transition?
Let me give you an example, right? So especially for men entrepreneurs, we driven by impact, freedom, purpose. So just put yourself in the shoes of the business owner who would exit or decides to retire, right? What's the value you bring to the world, right? So your kids are grown, they don't have time for you. Your grandkids, they're in school, they have different interests. You're not really aligned, and you're not gonna get full days out of it, right? So it's very hard to live a lifestyle when you no longer have to do anything. And we entrepreneurs, like every free moment. I even had an incident. I had to go to what do you call it? They put needles, acupuncture. I injured my shoulder jiu-jitsu. So when I was going to that acupuncture sessions, uh, at the first session, I was blown away. Why? Because I asked a doctor to let me have my phone so I could at least listen to a podcast while I would wait for 40 minutes laying down. He said, no phones, just lay there. I'm like, I can't just lay there. I gotta do something. Like I gotta listen to something. He's like, no, just lay there. So here I had like 6 sessions, and it was like the biggest gift I ever had. Uh, for 6 sessions, I had to basically just let my mind wander, and I was just just following my thoughts. So most of the entrepreneurs, what I'm trying to say, that we geared like we 24/7. So for such a person to all of a sudden do nothing, how I'm not gonna do anything.
How do you ensure that the integrity of a team is maintained during a business transition? I've been around these transitions where I've been part of the team that really had no say so in the transition. Do you have any success stories or any data where this was particularly evident?
Yeah, so You do not right away reveal to your team that the company is for sale, right? Also, it depends on the company size, right? So initially, what we did, we let the leadership know, few key people that had to prepare documentation for the due diligence, right? So when we passed through a certain stage in due diligence and came to a conclusion that there would be the actual purchase while working on purchase agreement, then more people found out about it. And again, prior to that, we made sure that there was employment agreements with specific people that would be vital for the transition. So they got 1 to 2 year employment agreements. So we also made sure that they had stock options. So some of the equity was rolled over. Right, everything was rolled over into a new company. Again, depends who's the buyer. And this way, with the employment agreements, with the new equity in the company, and when they can exercise the cash for those stock options, they basically had to maintain. Of course, again, on a need. Not everybody stays because this also depends on the culture, how it's aligned. So I had different type of experiences in the past where. Uh, uh, Based on who the buyer was, certain things had to happen, right? Sometimes, again, if it's a strategic buy, usually they don't need your back office, right? That's why it's important to know who's the potential buyer is, so you would not invest in that software because they might not even use it, because they'll have your people uh, to start using their system, and maybe not going to even need some of your departments because their back office already set up to handle everything, and all they're going to use is people on the front lines that servicing customers. So it depends on the business, but there is for sure ways and strategies to make sure that based on who the buyer is, you can position everything and not only protect the transition period, even beyond that. Because in many cases, there's a seller financing involved, and usually it's at least 5 years. 10% to 20%, could be even 50% of seller financing. There's also a rollover. If it's I think in both strategic buy and financial buy, you might be asked to roll over some of that equity, so you would exit a second time, maybe even a third time. When the company exits, so those could be very interesting. So you got to protect yourself. So key people,
Right.
you would want to give them uh, uh, an opportunity to exit with you and benefit from all those exits as well.
You mentioned the regret. I'm sure a lot of people have the fear that they might regret what they're doing. So I'm curious, what advice would you give to business owners who might be hesitant to consider selling or transitioning their business? And maybe what steps can they take to start the conversation or to start to make this move forward?
Yep. So first, I would look at the state where they positioned. Believe it or not, in some states, it's not worth it to sell a business, because by the time you sell and pay capital gains on the federal side, pay the state tax, uh, and you will be left with not enough funds to sustain you. Remember, we talked about that calculator. So first thing to do is basically figure out what do you need at the end, which state are you in, how much you're going to get for your business based on the industry, based on your earnings, what would be the multiple, what you're going to can possibly get. Start planning that. If it doesn't make sense, maybe you would leave the business running, bring in the CEO or managing director to run it for you, and you just exit that way. So business would be running, still belong to you, and you just use it as a cash cow to support your lifestyle. If again, to go back to do everything, I would start with the business valuation. That's where everything starts. Get on a call with somebody like myself or any other. Uh, in It depends again on the size of a business. Either with the M&A advisor, business broker, go through the procedure where you would figure out what the value of the business would be. Uh, based on that, you would basically then start to plan out, okay, based on what the valuation showed, I'm going to be looking at this at my exit with this much. What will be left out? Let's see what we can do to de-risk it, right? So that would be the second place, de-risking.
You said to get on a call with someone like myself. You're talking about yourself. Anyone listening or watching, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yes. So before you get in touch with me, here's what I suggest you do. Go to idealexitplan.com. On that website, if you scroll down, you will see a banner with a button to download a book that I wrote. Seven costly mistakes that business owners do make uh, while selling their business. So it's a short read, maybe 15, 17 pages or so. Go through those seven mistakes, right? And at the end of that book, there is a page that is a button you click to schedule a consultation. It would be very, very helpful if you create that awareness in yourself. What are the seven mistakes are? So when you get on a call with me, you can ask me pretty much any question, and we can go from there.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Baruch, this has been a wealth of information. I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose, and I'm someone who knows a lot of this stuff, and it's still you've got a wealth of knowledge and experience, and it's fascinating to hear it. We could probably have dozens and dozens of podcasts talking about all of this stuff, and I'm so glad that you joined us today. Um,
Thank you, Paul.
and
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate your wisdom, and to you and to all our listeners and to all our viewers, just know if you're going to grow, chances are good that you're going to have to do something inappropriate.